Well, we're in a holiday season, and whenever holiday seasons come around, it makes me think about traditions because over the many years that I've been here so far, the traditions have changed quite a bit. And, even when I was a kid, we'd for one thing, you might watch old movies, or you'd have a discussion about, your parents would talk to you about what they did for Christmas, etc. So, it was obvious that things had changed, um, over time. And obviously, when you look at, well, there were songs that came out in the 1940s and 50s that were very popular, let's say during the Christmas season. Well, something like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or Frosty the Snowman. Well, these are, for me, my generation, these are just traditional secular Christmas songs that would not have existed for my parents, and they would not have certainly existed for my grandparents. Who, when I had holidays, that's the people who I was around. Now, I'm not saying they had a problem with the songs. I'm just pointing out that things evolve and go along. So it just made me start thinking about traditions and what we do as traditional kind of things. As sort of an aside, but or an adjunct kind of thought on this is, it popped in my mind about when I was a kid. Uh, my parents would get on to me for not having good manners, or they, exhort you to have good manners, etc. And as a kid, all what that meant was, let's see, there are certain rules I've got to follow, and I better follow them, or other words, otherwise I'm going to, hear from my parents about not being having good manners. But when you think about what are good manners, what were good manners? I'm sorry, I've got something in my throat. Good manners are being kind, being thoughtful, and honoring your elders. That's pretty much what good manners were about when I was a kid, and they certainly still are. And this is where we see people not being having good manners, isn't it? And it's being respectful of others, and so the way you eat at the table matters because nobody wants to see you chomping on something. There's a TV show, a British one. One of the characters, every time they're at the table, they'll be having meetings, a police program, and they're having some kind of gathering around in a pub or whatnot. And this guy's always chomping and slurping and everything else. He's an uncouth person. He doesn't have good manners uh, to a degree. So, it's being thoughtful and whatnot. These are things that, coming from a Christian background, these are things that are Christian things to do. It has nothing to do with having some formula for having good manners. It's just being a good Christian. Now, that's not the way it was presented to me. It was presented to me as you need to have good manners. Sit up straight at the table or whatever. You see kids. I watch people slouching all over the place in restaurants these days, and it's like, what? They don't have good manners. They're just in their own living room or bedroom, more like it. Everybody in their head, they're in their bedroom, whether they're in in their car, in a restaurant or whatnot. It's just sort of manners is not an important thing, but it's not about anybody else. They're just being themselves, doing whatever they want to do, and no one's ever taught them to do anything else except just do whatever you want to do. Your parents don't want to yell at you because, hey, it's a pain in the neck to yell at it. They'd rather, drink a beer and keep their mouth shut and ignore you. Anyway, I digress. So, there's the Christmas song, God rest ye, merry gentlemen. Well, to be a gentleman, if you look back into things, to be a gentleman, you pretty much were a Christian. You didn't, you lived by Christian ethics, etc., and morals, supposedly. Obviously, that wasn't always true, but that's what a gentleman should be. There's a line in in a Downton Abbey show where the butler is getting, they're going to the head housekeeper makes some comment about, well, I did something and I really shouldn't tell you, and the butler says, well, if I was a gentleman, I wouldn't want to hear that, but I'm not a gentleman. So now, so even at that point, and historically, as far as the way the storyline goes, anyway, you can see where the idea of gentleman is not what it used to be anymore. But it would have been a Christian man, and of some standing. On top of that, you might have been a Christian as a, very low class person, but you weren't a gentleman because you had to be a high class Christian to be a gentleman. So anyway, on to traditions. Well, traditions. What's the purpose for traditions? The purpose of traditions is to have a sense of unity. A lot of times people get tired of their traditions. I don't want to eat the same turkey I had for Thanksgiving. Give me a new kind of, my family, they wanted to start frying their turkeys. And then other people wanted to have turkeys that had some Oriental or Italian taste to it or something like that. They were tired of the same old turkey. Well, there are traditional dishes, and I guess you can tweak your traditions. And that's I'm not saying that's a negative thing. I'm just saying there are, for Thanksgiving, having a turkey was a tradition, or is a tradition, right? But we all gather. Why? Why are we eating turkey? We're not eating turkey because it's National Turkey Day. We're eating turkey because the turkey represents what the Pilgrims did. And so our reason, the why for Thanksgiving, is because we're thanking God for all the blessings that we've received, the way the Pilgrims held supposedly their first Thanksgiving. So it's about unity. And the key is why. You need to focus on why. Now, when I was a young man, I remember there was a church I was at, and the preacher was tired and wanted to get rid of the annual hanging of the greens, which was a tradition at the church. It really wasn't a tradition. It had only been around for maybe 10 or 15 years. So it had become a tradition kind of thing, right? What was the purpose of the hanging of the greens? This is where you'd get together, have a sup, have a meal together as the church. And then people would break up into their Sunday school classes, go to their Sunday school classes and decorate their Sunday school class. Now, I don't know what had happened over the years because this has been going on a good long time, a long while. If the focus of hanging of the greens was not a Christian message, then just coming and socializing and going and putting some holly in your room or whatever, or doing some crafts. The kids probably did crafts and decorate. I can't remember everything that happened, but that would have been a hollow tradition, and so you need to focus on the reason, not the activity. And of course, Jesus was railed against traditions. One of the main things, over and over again, you would see Jesus if you read the New Testament, you see Jesus just going at it at the Pharisees, etc., because they had these traditions that had no meaning anymore. They just had to be carried out. That was the thing. It was a tradition. The community expected the Pharisees, and the Pharisees reinforced that whole idea by their piety, but everybody expected that there was a certain standard of things that you had to do a particular way, and if you didn't do it in the particular way, then you were bad. And the traditions were meaningless just about anymore. And that's what Jesus kept trying to get across, is you need to know what God really wants from you. He doesn't want all your traditions. He wants your heart. That's what Jesus would try to tell him. So we all need to think about that. Regardless of whether you're Christian or not. What is your tradition about? So as I drive through the neighborhoods these days, I'm driving by homes, and out in front you've seen all these blow up things. They're all over the place. It looks like a junkyard during the day, and at night they blow them up and they look cute. But which I find a little interesting. But anyway, so or I see people just like the other day, they had a local Christmas parade and people were dressed up in different ways and everything. So what do we see people focusing on with their Christmas tradition? What are they doing to represent themselves about Christmas? Well, I see a lot from Elf the movie, which was certainly to me a very good movie and an endearing character, the elf. I see these blow ups of the Grinch from the Grinch that stole Christmas, and there's a nice message to that, but it's not the Christian. It's not really a Christmas message specific to Christmas, except for let's see, if the holiday of Christmas is an important holiday, it is making giving credence to Christmas as an important holiday, but not necessarily for the reason that Christmas actually exists for Christians. It's a Christian holiday. It should have Christian meaning, it seems to me, but certainly these people, the movie isn't about Christian meaning. Community is good. Caring about people is good, and we have all kind of people today who insist that we care and that we don't judge and all these other kind of things. Well, but they're not approaching justice and things from a Christian viewpoint. They've just come. This is a tradition, basically. That's what they want to do. They want to make that particular quality a tradition, something that you do, not because it's something that comes from your heart, but just dadgummit, you do it. Okay. So anyway, what else did I see? Oh, baby dragons. I don't know what baby dragons with Christmas outfits on has to do with anything, but there's probably some movie or TV show or kids TV show or something that has a baby dragon. I don't know. I saw a snowman that looked like a gargoyle. Is that a Christian kind of thing? Gargoyles, really, when you learn about what they're about, they're really not Christian characters in the first place, even though they're on cathedrals, but they're not a biblical kind of character. And it sort of struck me this season we have a new movie that's out. I think it's called Satan Claus, right? With Jack Black, where the kid writes a letter to, from what I understand, the kid writes a letter to Santa, and he writes, instead of Santa, he spells Satan. He makes a mistake, a typo, righto, whatever. And so, and then Satan pops up. So I'm expecting now, next year, we will probably see people in the Christmas parade or watching the Christmas parade or whatever. Somebody is going to have on a Satan Claus outfit, which seems to be getting even further and further and further from what Christmas is about. Because Christmas is about God giving humanity a savior, someone who would come and die for the sin of humanity. And Satan Claus, that doesn't really fit in there at all, does it? So, now you can have new traditions, and that's okay. But at best, as you can see, these characters I just went over in as far as what I'm seeing out in front of people's houses, at best, the community is their focus is brought to focus on something new. They may remain a community. You may all get together, and let's say Christmas tree. The Christmas tree isn't a biblical thing. But you can see where people get together around the Christmas tree and sing carols. You might do that as a community, But the more we have these traditions that aren't directly attached to the why, then the community gets moved away and gets focused on new things instead of what the tradition was originally about. That's the best you can get whenever you start coming up with new traditions. Same thing happens in your families. When you were a kid, there are certain ways your family might have got together and done things as a family during the holiday. And as time went on and everybody grew up, etc., things got in the way. Maybe illnesses happened, and people who previously had been responsible for providing certain aspects of the celebration, that they could no longer do it. And so you come up with new traditions because you really don't have a choice. And therefore, certainly, yes, you have to choose, you have to change. But if it's a Christmas, we all, as people who are Christians, if that's what you are, then you want to focus on. If it's Hanukkah, then you want to focus on what is the purpose of Hanukkah. If it's Ramadan, you want to focus on what is the purpose of Ramadan. So it wouldn't make any sense to have a Christmas tree in Ramadan. It wouldn't strike me. It would have nothing to do with it. If it certainly wouldn't bring it in as the focus to it, right? You might just be sort of participate in the greater community, but whatever. So that's the best you can do, is just redirect your focus for what the tradition is about. And maybe you lose the why in that. And then the worst is you just destroy community values. And that's, as I become elderly, that's what I see, is community values being destroyed by adding these additional layers of symbols, new layers of symbols, new practices that have nothing to do with the real purpose of the holiday. And this is true for, this is a major thing about Easter. I see churches who have Easter. One of the big things they do is they have Easter egg hunts on Easter morning, and frankly, that has nothing to do with Christianity. It's an adjunct thing that Christians are related to. I get that, and certainly the symbolism of the egg or whatnot. I get that, but trying to get people to come to your church for an Easter egg hunt seems absolutely senseless from a Christian point of view, from a biblical Christian point of view in particular. And you might call yourself a Christian, but you might not be very biblical. You may not really hold the Bible as being that important of a book. So that's something we, I think everybody needs to be thinking about, traditions. So therefore, in the holidays, we need to make an effort to pay attention to the why of Christmas, the why of Thanksgiving, the why of All Saints' Day, which is the day before Halloween, which is where Halloween came from, right? Regardless of what it is, and if you're of another faith, whatever it is, why? It's great to get together and have a meal. It's great for family to have family time together. That's important. It's good for families and for communities of people who have the same values to get together and celebrate together. But you need to know why you're doing it all the time and not let those whys go away. So that's what Jesus said. Know the why. Don't just do the tradition. Don't just do the activity. Merry Christmas. Have a good day.